Kyrie Irving drove into the center of the Warriors' defense just left of the hoop. Fading away, he attempted a teardrop runner, which would miss badly and fall into the arms of the Warriors' small forward and do-it-all player, Andre Iguodala. Iguodala immediately turned and rushed the ball up the court. Nearly wide open, the court was in front of him. All that stood between him and the basket was J.R. Smith. Moreover, Steph Curry, the Warriors' superstar and league MVP, was slightly ahead of Iguodala on the wing. It was a classic 2v1. Iguodala played it perfectly, inviting pressure from Smith. Smith stepped to the ball, and Iguodala whipped it to Curry on the wing, forcing Smith to pivot back to Curry. Curry took one more dribble to invite Smith further in, and then bounced it back to Iguodala, who would take the layup. Smith, however, had hedged just enough to force Iguodala to double pump, delaying the layup by a fraction of a second. Iguodala easily shed Smith and began to lay the ball in the basket, at which point the Warriors would take the lead and put the pesky Cavaliers away to win the NBA championship. But just as he let go of the ball, out of the corner of the screen, LeBron James, the best player in basketball, appeared. James took a giant leap, and just as Iguodala cleared Smith, LeBron soared from the other side of the rim, stretched, reached for the ball, and swatted it off the backboard. LeBron, out of nowhere, had saved the Cavs. Kyrie Irving would go to hit a step-back three, and then on the next possession, Kevin Love would force Steph Curry into a bad three, and the Cavs would vanquish the Warriors to win the 2016 NBA championship and Cleveland's first professional championship in 52 years. I was at a TGI Fridays in Lima, Peru, watching the game with Saint Ignatius graduate and fellow Jesuit Jack McClendon when the block occurred. Jack and I knew something unique had happened to Cleveland. So did the other patrons, including one very friendly Texas man who hugged us, more like held us in his arms, and told us that he was so happy for us. Something was different. And in the days that would follow, I began to think nothing would ever be the same in Cleveland, especially as I watched over 1 million people, many of you, pour into downtown to celebrate. And I thought of how lucky I was to be working at Ignatius when this pivotal moment in the city's history occurred. And I assumed that this moment would define a generation and a city on the rise, a city that successfully hosted national events like political conventions and all-star games. It would be a city not known for a burning river and near misses, but of clean energy, of innovation, of rebirth. My students, the students of St. Ignatius High School, would be the protagonists of that rebirth. Their generation would be the generation of champions. In today's gospel, we hear Jesus tell us the only thing we ever really need to hear. This is my commandment. Love one another as I love you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I have called you friends. Love each other. Love by sacrificing your life for the good of others. If you do this, you will be friends of God. In this, one of Jesus' farewell discourses in the Gospel of John, Jesus reminds us what will define us are not trophies, not championships, although we're very good and actually great at winning those here at St. Ignatius High School, but love, a sacrificial love that finds joy in the joy, the happiness, the wholeness of another person. While I do believe the block and the magical championship of 2016 will live in the imagination of Clevelanders, our Ignatius education reminds us that we are ultimately defined by love, by how much we love, serve, and fight for others. And I believe that this generation of youth, you students, will be defined by love. This tragic pandemic has asked a lot of you. It has asked you to lay down your own lives, your sports seasons, your hopes, your dreams, your science Olympiads, your proms, even seeing your friends in person. It's asked you to lay these things down for others, especially the vulnerable elderly in our community. you are receiving the type of spiritual formation that the saints have received. What you're experiencing now reminds me of that great holy woman of the 20th century, Dorothy Day, in the earthquake of San Francisco on April 18, 1906. Dorothy, age 8 at the time, observed the following as she wrote in her autobiography many years later. While the crisis following the earthquake lasted, people loved each other. It was though that they were united in Christian solidarity. It makes one think of how people could, if they would, care for each other in times of stress, ungrudgingly in pity and love. Love each other. Lay down your lives for each other. Dorothy Day as a girl was so shaped by generosity of others that she experienced she would go on to care for the poor and advocate for them the rest of her life. But she always lamented that people went back to normal when the crisis had passed. For her and for us Christians, what is normal, what is real, is love. To lay down our lives for our friends. To die to self so that others might live. This generation, you students, has the potential to be the greatest generation. But that will only be realized if you do not accept the way things were before the pandemic, but rather reshape society in such a way that love reigns supreme, that you lay down your lives so that others might live. Dorothy Day's favorite quote was from Fyodor Dostoevsky's famous work, The Brothers Karamazov. Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared to love in dreams. In dreams, we believe everything goes our ways. All our ideas are brilliant. We get along with everybody, and we'll never, ever have a fight with our soulmate. In reality, we make sacrifices for those we love. During this quarantine, there's been one graduate, Connor Sweeney, from the class of 2008, whose family lives in the neighborhood. And each day, Connor brings his little boys to play on campus. And I know Connor well, as Connor coached basketball from 2012 to 2015. His last year of coaching was my first year at the school. So the other day, from a socially acceptable distance, I asked Connor why he stopped coaching, because he was rather good at it. Without missing a beat, he looked at me and said, "Father, well, my wife and I were having our first child, and I had to make a choice. Keep pursuing this own interest of mine, or be more present to my family." Connor laid down one aspect of his life so that his family might more fully live. And at the end of the day, this is what it means to be an Ignatius man. My hope, and more profoundly my prayer for you, is that you know that the sacrifices that you are making for your family and for strangers right now are more real expressions of what it means to be human than the things we think that often define us. Championships, status, fame, our reputation, or fortune. I want to leave you all with this. When I arrived at the school in the fall of 2015, I was blown away by the alma mater. There I was at the Mass of the Holy Spirit, and everybody stood and sang it with feeling. I was like, whoa, what a song. This clearly means something to people. So I memorized it. I was like, I want to sing this song the way these students are singing it, the way these alums sing it. So I memorized the song, and I remember at the next all-school Mass, I remember singing it that first time and being enraptured by the experience. And so I belted out as loud as I could. Our famed alma mater graces every shine within our hearts, with her unforgotten faces and the faith that she imparts. Years of passing cannot sever ties of new day from the old. And at this point, I love those last two lines. At this point, it's like, here I go. I'm going to deliver everything I have in these last two lines, and I'm going to sing from the top of my lungs. And I said, "We are Ignatius men for others as we hail the blue and gold." Now, I'm not sure if Father Guillaume, who was most likely next to me, caught it or not, but I confused the song lyric, "We're Ignatius men forever," with "We're Ignatian men for others. And while I confused the lyric that day, the longer that I have been here, the more I get to know alumni like Connor Sweeney, or see the generous faith and service of our faculty and staff. The more I see students serve each other, participate in the Christian Action Team. The more I see students use their brilliance, and they are brilliant. We have brilliant students here. Use their brilliance to question the assumptions of our world. The more I see older students help younger students, the more I see the spark of service start to kindle in the hearts of our little Welsh wildcats, the more I realize that I was not so confused at all. If you want to be an Ignatian man forever, then you will be an Ignatian man for others. This is my commandment. Love one another as I love you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. This I command you. Love one another.